Hi everybody, welcome back to Sensei Steve Says, hosted by Shiage Do Martial Arts. Today we're going to be talking about something that's a little bit near and dear to my heart, and that is staying in the fight. What do I mean by that? So, staying in the fight is generally what a lot of people say when you get into like a fist fight or street fight, or even a sparring match, where you stay engaged. Generally, if somebody is not staying in the fight, they're visibly giving up. They curl into a little ball. They're not focused on anything but just defense. They might be trying to retreat or whatever, but they've more or less given up on the fight. So we're going to talk about a couple things. The first part is including sparring matches, and at least contact ones, because I don't see this very often in no contact matches or point sparring. But in contact matches, I do see this. Fights are sloppy, drawn out, and painful, okay? Generally, nothing works the way you want it to. Sometimes based on where their elbows are, their body is, you're hurting yourself when you're throwing your techniques. That's always a surprise when you do that. Sometimes the stuff that you're doing is just not as effective as you'd like it to be. That's always annoying when that happens. And sometimes, you know, getting punched in the face, getting punched in the gut, it hurts, right? You don't enjoy that. Nobody enjoys that. Whatever. I'm not getting into that. But, you know, part of the thing to remember is no matter how good you are, there's always somebody who's more skilled than you and somebody who's luckier than you. And in my experience, that's often the person you're dealing with. But in order to stay in the fight, even when the odds are stacked against you, I have 3 points that I want to kind of go over to kind of keep you in it. And they are imagination, intuition, and indomitable spirit. So the first one, imagination. You're going to use, when you get in a fight, one of the things that you really want to be very concerned with is not just the person necessarily that's directly in front of you, but what's around you. Okay, we're talking about whether they have friends around you, whether you have friends around you, whether you are in a circle full of people that you can't get away from, whether you're stuck in a corner of a brick wall that you can't get through, whether you're in a wide open space where you have lots of space to leave. These are all things you want to be paying attention to, but also, are there sticks on the ground? Are there things on the ground that you need to worry about tripping over? Are there things on the ground that the other person needs to worry about tripping over? Maybe there's, you know, if it's in the woods or something, and I'm not talking like the deep woods, but like a small patch of woods in a park. Is there a fallen tree that somebody might trip over, you know, a log or something? Is it a curb? Is it a fence? Is there, you know, is this a soccer field and, you know, there's a net right behind them or behind you or around, whatever. These are things that you want to pay attention to because sometimes you can use those things. Sometimes they just get in your way, sometimes you can use them. We did a whole video on improvised weapons for self-defense, you know, using a book bag, a jump rope, you know, whatever you find, sticks on the ground, you know, anything you can use as an improvised weapon if you can get your hands on it. So you want to use your imagination quickly, obviously, to think about, okay, what's around you, what's around them, and how can I use that, okay? Some of that stuff, it helps to think about ahead of time. Oh, I could use this jump rope like a pair of nunchucks. You know, when we did that whole class with the improvised weapons for self-defense, we went through a bunch of those. If you practice for like 5 minutes with each of those, you're already doing pretty good. You've got it in your head. That's definitely an option. So now you're looking for more things around you necessarily than somebody who hasn't practiced stuff like that. The next one in that list is intuition. You, ideally, if you're watching these videos, have some kind of training. Whether that's, you know, super basic because you're a white belt and you just started and you know how to do 3 punches, you know how to do 5 blocks, and you know, that's what you got to start into this with, or whether you're, you know, a umpteenth Dan black belt and, you know, you've been doing this for 160 years and, you know, whatever, you know, you might have a little bit more, but you're going to use that training that your body has, your muscle memory, you know, and you want to try for closest weapon to closest target, right? Is it the closest thing, the side of my, you know, my hand cupping his ear to try to disorient him and make him dizzy? Or is it to go find a, you know, look around, find a rock, pick it up, and then throw it at him? Is that going to be, you know, the best use of my time? If I don't get a lot of it, that second one's probably not going to be the best use of my time. If I have the time to go look around for a rock, I probably have the time to leave, okay? And that's going to be my priority, is to get out of there, right? The longer you're in a fight, the higher chance there is of you getting injured, okay? So leave, all right? As soon as you can. Obviously, there are times where you can't, and that's where, you know, your self-defense really comes into play here, but verbal judo is your first skill, right? Run, talk, defend. Try to leave, try to talk to them, then if you absolutely have to, you defend yourself. The last one's the longest one we're going to talk about, and that's indomitable spirit. This one's the hardest one to get because you really have to have, it's a mindset. The indomitable spirit is you don't give up no matter what, right? That's what the words mean. Indomitable is Latin, it means unconquerable, okay? You can't, it's a spirit of mind and body that cannot be conquered. It doesn't mean unbeatable, okay? It means unconquerable. And there's a great quote from a guy, his name is Marcus Luttrell. He was giving a speech. If you've ever seen the movie Lone Survivor, Marcus Luttrell was part of one of the SEAL teams. He was up in Afghanistan and had some terrible things happen to him. If you watch our Facebook posts, Michael Patrick Murphy was his superior officer, and Marcus Luttrell, unfortunately, was the only one who walked away from that conflict. But he had a great quote, and I love it a lot. And he says, you ain't the Hulk. You bleed just like everybody else. He says, I'm waiting to see, no matter how hard I hit you, if I hit you and knock you stupid, if I hit you and knock you down, or if I hit you and knock you out. When you wake up and come at me with everything you've got like a rampaging beast, or if you quit. That right there is indomitable spirit. I'm not saying you can't get knocked down. I'm not saying you can't get knocked out, right? I've been knocked unconscious. It's really unpleasant. I've been in a few fights myself, both tournament style and, you know, physical altercations. None of them are fun, right? But if you get hit and you get hurt, there's a fire that comes up, and it just makes you like, yeah, I'm all right, I got this, right? And when people lose that fire, they lose sight of that fire because there's too much pain, or they think their odds are insurmountable. You know, they tend to shut down. Okay, so the trick is to stay in it no matter what, right? We'll quote Han Solo: "Never tell me the odds." If you're in a fight and you're in an altercation and you start feeling that pain, there's, you know, obviously your priority is going to change a little bit. You probably want to leave first. If you're starting to take too much damage, your priorities are going to get, it's time to leave, right? If it's a fight, like a contact fight, it might be time to fall back on your original plan, right? So what I suggest when I'm training my kids, or my students at all, is they have a plan when you walk into a fight. The one that I often tell them to do is take away the other person's tools. Okay, I can't beat this guy because I can't knock him out. All right, well, plan two, or the better plan in the first place, is take away his tools, right? He keeps hitting me with a leg kick and a punch, a leg kick and a punch, or punch, punch, leg kick, punch, punch, leg kick. Which one of those hurts more? Well, I need my legs to stand up, so the leg kick hurts more. Okay, so how do we take away a leg kick? Okay, maybe it's time for me to start doing leg kicks. Maybe I just do a bunch of them right in a row to the same exact spot and see if I can take that fight out of him. Maybe he kind of favors that leg a little bit more, and now I don't have to worry about leg kicks. Maybe it's punching, you know, the nice nerve between the bicep and the tricep, and I take his punches away from him. Maybe I hit him in the solar plex a couple times and take the wind away from him, right? Take the air out of his sails, and you know, knock the wind out of him. You know, these are ways that I can come back that I'm taking away his tools. He needs, you know, the things that are hurting me. His legs and his arms are hurting me. You know, these are the techniques that in my example, these are the techniques that he keeps doing that hurt. So those are what I'm going to focus on first. Maybe I can't do that. Okay, what can I do next? Okay, now I'm going to try to take the wind away from him. Okay, I can't do that. Maybe what do I do next? you just kind of go down a progression. Okay, he's leaving his head open. Maybe I'm going to clap him upside the ear because I don't need a lot of force for that, because I certainly don't have a lot of force left because we're far enough in this fight, and I'm just going to try to make him dizzy. If I get him dizzy, maybe I can come back from this. All right? The trick is that you, through your imagination, your intuition or your training, and your indomitable spirit, you just don't give up on the fight. All right? Staying in the fight is how you come through the other side. Now, I'm not saying that's how you come through unscathed, right? Obviously, when you go to a fight, all you've got is what you brought with you. If you're sick that day, guess what? You're bringing that with you. If you haven't trained in the last 3 weeks because of COVID, guess what? You're bringing that with you. If you just ate a huge meal and you feel like you're going to throw up if you get punched, guess what? You're bringing that with you, okay? But you also get to bring with you your physical training, your endurance training, the fact that you got a good night's sleep last night, stuff like that. You get to bring all that stuff with you too to your fights. So all you get is what you got when you start. So the more thought that you put into this ahead of time about your imagination, your intuition, and your indomitable spirit, the better off that you'll be. I love training, sparring, and self-defense with my students, specifically because the faster you can get your self-defense and the faster people spar, the more experience and exposure is the word I'm looking for. You get towards people throwing techniques at you. People throwing techniques at you don't necessarily have to hurt, but I have to see them to be able to block them. I have to train my eyes to know, okay, I can get away from this one by a lean. Okay, I didn't have to block. I don't need a lot of force to lean like this. I don't need a lot of energy to lean like that. So even if I have taken a couple hits and now I'm in a spot where I really don't have a ton of force left in my body, okay, maybe I duck a punch, maybe I lean a punch, right? So instead of taking a full power punch, maybe I get out of it completely. Maybe I only get out of half the punch, but still I'm better off than if I had done nothing. Okay, so you got to stay in that fight, try to mitigate what you can, so that you can, figure out your other options. With that, this is near and dear to my heart. A quick little a story thing, just something that I've seen personally and was super proud of. One of the people I know who recently got into a fight ended up being against two people. One of the people was really disinterested in fighting, but they never left either. So he had to continue being worried about that particular person. The other person was very interested in fighting and decided to start throwing sucker punches, a lot of them. So as this person was trying to deal with, we'll call him party one and party two. As he was trying to deal with party one, who wasn't interested in fighting, they were trying to have a discussion, and party two decided he didn't like it and started throwing sucker punches. The person that we're talking about here basically got sucker punched a couple times, continued trying to deal with person one because that's what he needed to do, and then unfortunately sucker punch person number two, party number two, got the better of him for a minute, got on top of him, and then this person managed to get out from under the top of him and then take back control of the situation. It's hard for me to watch something like that just because I'd rather be that person there. I know that I have training and stuff like that. That's why I can't watch MMA fights and stuff on television. I get like super into it and moving around and my muscles jerk like I'm dreaming. It's funny how it works, but I want to commend that person for staying in the fight. They did an amazing job. He took a couple punches, which sucks for him, but he stayed in the fight, did what he needed to do. It was a great turnout, so that it just prompted this particular video. So for all of you guys, do your mental training as much as your physical training. How do I use this? How do I use that? I suggest people train even on days that they don't feel like training. When you feel like garbage, or, not when you're like sick. Obviously let your body heal. But if you just feel like garbage, everybody has those days. They're like, I don't feel like doing this. I don't feel like doing that. I'm not saying go, all out tearing off after it, you know, to give it everything you got. But do some stuff, train a little bit, maybe, you know, spend a little bit, exhaust yourself just a little, so that you get used to that feeling of, man, this sucks, right? But I'm here and I'm still doing it. I'm still okay. I can fight through this, because a lot of fighting is mental training. With all that, we'll bring it to the announcements at the end of the day, just real quick. Obviously, we live in New York, so we're still waiting to see what our regulations are going to bring. As I know more, I will let you guys know. Our 30 and 30 challenge for June for our limited edition t-shirt is ending today, so make sure you guys get those to me. Get me in your calendars so that we can figure out who ran the most miles, and we'll get those that handed out and printed up. It's going to be super awesome. I'm super happy with the design. It looks great, honestly, so I'm really excited about somebody getting one of those shirts. Our Zoom classes this week, we're going to be doing outside in the park, so feel free to join us for that. And if you're one of our YouTube consumers, make sure you guys like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, all the YouTube stuff. We do have a Patreon account if you guys are interested in doing some distance learning stuff. That's a great place to check out, because we have some Zoom classes, we have some Q&As, we have all kinds of different stuff. So depending on the level of interest that you have in continuing your training, we wanted to provide that to people who were stuck at home or away from the dojo, or, you know, who always wanted to go to a dojo but haven't had the time or whatever, and now you do. So make sure you guys check that out. With that, that's all I got. Thanks for tuning in. You guys are dismissed. Us!